Well, here he is, Greg Selinger, surrounded by NDP candidates marching over to the Lieutenant Governor's house. This was the moment this morning that the provincial election campaign became official. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Janet Stewart. Now that the campaign has begun in earnest, the Liberals, Tories and New Democrats were out on the trail today trying to convince you to vote for them. We will have full team coverage for you throughout this 34-day campaign. And here's a look at our team right now. Chris Glover will follow the NDP as it tries to hold on to power for an unprecedented fifth term. Sean Cavanaugh will watch the PCs to see if they can steal the legislature back after being shut out since the 1990s. And Nellie Gonzalez will track the Liberals to see if a recent bump in support will carry them through to electoral success. We begin tonight with Chris Glover at the NDP party, or the NDP campaign launch. Chris, tell us about the hiccup for Greg Selinger as he launched the campaign today.
Yeah, that's right. They started earlier with a hiccup. No hiccup tonight at the rally, though. You just heard them a couple minutes ago. They were chanting NDP. A lot of energy in this room. But that's right. Earlier today, a bit of a hiccup when they marched across the legislature to the Lieutenant Governor's house. There was a bit of a protest. The Taxpayers Federation staged that protest. They had a mascot there that looked like Pinocchio. This guy is called Fibber, and he has his nose outstretched. It's a reference to Selinger having raised the provincial sales tax after a promise in 2011 not to. The increase is likely to be one of the critical issues of the campaign. And today, as Selinger launched his campaign, he says that's a decision he is happy to defend.
When we made that difficult decision, it wasn't to gain popularity in the polls, and it certainly has worked out well in that regard. And I don't mean that in a glib way. It was a difficult choice that we had to make because we knew that there was the economy had not recovered as quickly as necessary, and we had reports that required over $1 billion of investment in flood infrastructure for communities. And a community underwater has no economy, so we had to start with the basics, and the basics are protecting people and keeping people employed.
So yes, of course, this is the first campaign rally for the NDP. The room is packed. The crowd is certainly buzzing. Sharon Blady is up behind me, and she and Deanne Crothers are MLAs. They are running for re-election, and they were introducing several of the candidates. Of course, all of these speakers are here to hear from NDP leader Greg Selinger. He is set to take the stage in just a couple of minutes, and you can expect him to go back to many of those speaking points about trust and credibility. Reporting live, I'm Chris Glover.
Thank you, Chris. We go now to Portage-la Prairie, where CBC's Sean Cavanaugh has been following Progressive Conservative leader Brian Pallister on his first day on the campaign trail. Sean.
That's right, Janet. Brian Pallister made here in Portage-la Prairie the third stop on his campaign swing on the first day of the election. Now, from Winnipeg to Brandon to here in Portage, the theme of the day, the provincial sales tax. Pallister promises to drop the PST by 1%. That's not only a promise, it's also how the Progressive Conservative leader is taking shots at Greg Selinger. Expect to hear over and over again from Pallister how Selinger misled Manitobans by promises in the last election not to raise taxes, and then did it by raising the PST. Pallister says that 1% of the PST is much better in the hands of taxpayers than in the government.
To leave more money on the kitchen tables of Manitobans, because we trust Manitobans to make the decisions on how to spend the money that they work so hard to save, that they work so hard to earn. Because when Manitobans have a little money on the kitchen table, Manitoba grows, because Manitobans like to create jobs here, because they like to support their neighbors and friends, but they have to have the ability to afford to do that. And lower PST is a step in the right direction for Manitobans.
So, lots of talk today about the provincial sales tax. Tomorrow we expect to hear from Brian Pallister about what he's going to do with other taxes that Manitobans are paying. Reporting live, Portage-la Prairie, Sean Cavanaugh, CBC News.
Thank you, Sean. The Liberals began their campaign promising full-day kindergarten for all Manitoba kids. Liberal leader Rona Bokhari made that promise today as she started her first official day of the campaign trail. CBC's Nellie Gonzalez is covering the Liberal campaign for us and has more on that.
The Liberals say investing in full-day kindergarten across the province will take the strain off parents who pay for childcare and before and after school programs. The plan is to roll it out over 5 years, and it would cost $50 million. Rana Bakari made the announcement today alongside other Liberal candidates and supporters at the Manitoba legislature. She admits the plan would be a big investment for Manitobans, but she couldn't say much about how a Liberal government would fund such a plan. Bakari said the $50 million would come from general revenues and it would go towards staffing and administrative costs. The plan doesn't include capital costs for upgrades in schools that may need it in the future. She says school divisions will be consulted, but wouldn't say how much the divisions might have to pay for full-time kindergarten.
We know very well the strain on childcare is too much, the strain on families is too much, the strain on labor productivity is too much, so we understand. So if you believe in removing some of the stress off of parents so they can get back into the workforce, then we have to make these very difficult decisions, but they have to happen.
Bakari says more details about the plan will be released next week. In the meantime, she says she feels great about the party's chances of winning more seats in this election. Right now, the Liberals have just 1 seat in the Manitoba legislature. Nellie Gonzalez, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And thank you, Nellie. Those 3 parties are not the only ones running. The Green Party of Manitoba stepped out with a campaign promise today to tackle poverty. The Green Party wants to implement a guaranteed annual income plan. A refundable income tax credit system would begin at $6,300 for a single adult. The party estimates the rate of poverty could be reduced from 12% to 6.6% if this plan was implemented.
The relevance of Greens is that we're raising issues like this. I challenge any other party to put forward comprehensive solutions like this. Yes, we can talk about who tweeted what, and I'm not saying that doesn't matter, but I'm much more concerned about a sincere and effective plan to address poverty in this province.
The program would cost $1.4 billion, the party estimates. They say they'd cover it by eliminating some tax credits. Let's take a look now at how the Manitoba legislature looked at the time it was dissolved. Today, the NDP held 35 seats. The PCs held 19. The Liberals held only 1 seat. The ridings of Gimli and Southdale were vacant. Now, the target for any party to win a majority government is 29 seats.